Guys, just over a decade ago now, Martin Allen was preparing for his first full season in charge of Cheltenham. Pookie, you came in the summer as one of the new signings from Swindon. Josh, you'd been at the club for a year or so, but you've been out on loan to Forest Green. And Dave, you came in as a permanent signing, having been on loan at Cheltenham from Tottenham the previous year. So we'll start off with you, Dave. What was it like for you coming out of Tottenham for the first time? You'd had a bit of league experience at Cheltenham, but it was your first, league club coming out of Tottenham. What was that like for you making the move?
Yeah, obviously the loan spell kind of helped that, because obviously all I knew was at that time was Tottenham, and going from a club like that where you got everything done for you, then moving down to Cheltenham and having to wash your own kit after every training session, and it was a lot different. So that loan spell helped me sort of just get to grips with it. So yeah, that was the main reason I signed, because obviously after that loan spell, it went quite well. Even though we got relegated, like personally for me, it went quite well. And he obviously wanted to sign me. So yeah, it was that loan spell done me good, and then I was ready to go for that next season. And obviously being relegated, with sort of expectations to kind of go straight back up, but obviously it didn't really pan out like that, did it?
Yeah, Josh, what do you remember being the expectations? Because Martin Allen, I think, put you on the transfer list pretty much straight away, didn't he, the previous year, and made it quite clear that he probably didn't want you as part of your plans, but you stayed around, and it paid off for you in the end with your form under Mark Yates. But what was it like for you that summer?
Yeah, it was I remember it being it was a tough time at the club. I think I came in under Keith Downing, and Keith got the sack about 2 weeks after I signed. So hopefully it wasn't anything to do with me. But so he got the sack, and then obviously Martin came in, and I think I played a couple of games under Martin to start with, and then he made it clear that I wasn't really in his plans. So I'd been out on loan and sort of drifted around a bit, come back in, had a few games, and then start of that season, I think it was just the whole thing felt a bit up in the air. Obviously, we made some new signings. Obviously, Pooks and Hutton came in, and which was good. But I remember it just being a bit of it felt an uncertain time at the club at that point, and we weren't really sure where we were going in terms of we obviously wanted to get back up, but we weren't really sure how the season was going to pan out, and it was a bit untried at that stage. So yeah, it was just, for me, it was just a case of trying to get games and get going again, really, and get playing.
Yeah, and Pookie, what did Martin Allen say to you? Because you're from Swindon, aren't you? You've been there for a while. I think he was looking at Ben Smith for a while in terms of centre midfield during that pre-season, but you came in and he made you one of his first choice players. So what do you remember about him persuading you to join the club?
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind, to be fair, because I'd been at Swindon since about an 8-year-old, so it was the first time that I'd left. Obviously, I didn't want to go, but Danny Wilson kind of made quite a lot of changes that season, and obviously I had to find another club. But I just remember it being a complete whirlwind. I think initially they offered me a sort of proposal of a contract, but it was less money. But it was all around the idea that, is it John Finners, who was leaving the club at the time? Obviously they were looking to pay him up, so it was all dependent on that being completed for me to be able to sign. So again, quite worrying that I was going along sort of training as if I was a player, but still waiting on something else to happen before I could sign. Now, I don't know how much money Finn has got, but once that went through, my offer went down quite a lot. And it was like, I was a young lad, and I was thinking, I'm not getting great advice from anyone else here. And the season was about a week away, and he'd already told me I was playing in the first game of the season, and yet I had to make a decision whether I wanted to take a pretty big pay cut to just sign for the season. So, I mean, the start of it all was a complete whirlwind. And when you've got Martin Allen on the phone, who's quite a character anyway, and it's quite a daunting thing to have to take on yourself without anyone representing you. And I kind of just he kind of made my mind up for me in terms of told me what I was going to do and told me how much money I'd be paid. And before I knew it, I was signed, and the season was underway. But it was a bit of a roller coaster start. Obviously, it involved they offered me a chance to stay in the flat in Cheltenham, to sort of like ease with the pay cut kind of thing. So obviously that was another thing I had to consider, that I was going to be living in a flat with God knows who at the time. Turned out to be Barry Hales, which was amazing because he was a great guy and we got on well. But yeah, it was just a wacky time. I mean, promised. I don't know how many football contracts you get promised a double bed in the flat as part of the deal. And the funny thing was, the bed actually belonged to John Schofield, so he had to find somewhere to sleep because I signed on that day. So quite funny, really, how it all works out. But it was pretty good. I mean, it was a 3-bed flat, and I think at one stage we had 8 players sleeping there one night. So
is that Hewlett Road, Pookie?
Yeah, it was right. It was great, to be honest. It was. I mean, it was like an OAP home, the tower block, but. I mean, you did have 8 footballers in amongst it, which was strange. But yeah, it was great. I mean, we were a stone's throw from the racetrack. So when the festival come along, we had prime real estate, really. But yeah, it was good fun in that flat. I mean, we had me, Barry Hales. I think Tom Denton was a bit of a regular once he signed. Elvis used to sleep. I mean, Elvis used to sleep behind the sofa. You like a dog. You used to look around the flat to see where he'd fallen asleep. But. Yeah, it was strange, but we all had our sort of little schedules, so we were coming and going and didn't spend all the time there, apart from Baz, who seemed to love it there, to be honest. So he was there pretty much most nights. But yeah, it was quite a whirlwind start, but it was really nice to find a club. Cheltenham is as good as it gets when you're leaving Swindon, I suppose, and you're looking for another club, and you get the opportunity to go to Cheltenham when it's like probably less than 30 minutes down the road for me. And it was quite exciting, really, to be somewhere new. It was all new experiences and new processes by starting there. So yeah, it was great, and kind of thankful for the chance, really.
Huts, you come in on loan with another lad from Tottenham who we've spoken about before, has gone on to do quite well for himself, Yuri Bacice. What were your living arrangements, both on loan and then that summer? Did you move to get yourself a place in Cheltenham, or were you in one of the club accommodations as well with like Pookie?
Yeah, we got put up in the club accommodation for that last sort of, probably it was about six weeks maybe of that season. So yeah, that was interesting. Obviously, first time I moved away from home and then getting put up in a place with a mad Spaniard. So yeah, no, it was all right. He literally hadn't been at Spurs that long, so he couldn't even speak English that well. He liked to fag out the window in the house as well, so that was interesting. But yeah, obviously he's sort of gone on to do all right.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and not me, but yeah.
Well, you've done all right as well in a different way.
Yeah.
What's he gone on to do, John?
He's at Bilbao now, but he's been at some huge clubs, hasn't he? He's played commanded some massive fees, and yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He's
Do you remember him?
Yeah, he's
a little bit. Yeah. What was it? Was he fullback or?
Yeah,
left back.
Yeah. I've got a very little memory, but he wasn't there for long, was he?
No, so yeah, it was literally that last 6 weeks of that season.
Right.
Yeah, and
you might have been on loan at Forest Green, Josh. You might have been on loan at Forest Green when they first came in. I'm not sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
but he got taken off in a game. Martin took him off in one game, even though Cheltenham made all their subs. I don't know if you remember that, Huts, because he put a bad challenge on Henry Lansbury, and Martin just told him to leave the pitch. He didn't get sent off. He just took him off.
I remember that Scunthorpe game, but I don't remember that.
Yeah,
don't surprise me.
But I think what Pookie said about the flat and players sleeping behind the sofa sort of sums up a little bit of chaotic time at the club there under Martin Allen. You would have all had different experiences of playing under him, and he was charismatic and he was a character. But what was he like as a manager? How did you find him, Josh? You obviously sort of had to come back from being loaned out. Did he treat you okay after that? Did you see some good things in him as well?
Yeah, I mean it was a tough time for me because I'd obviously just joined and then I was then so trying to get myself going, thinking new club, new chance, all this type of stuff. And then quite quickly, within a month, I'm being told that I don't, I can leave. And I'm thinking, Christ, what am I doing here? So I got through all of that. Obviously, went on loan, came back, and then he was interesting to deal with, Martin. He had his methods. We did some crazy things. I'm sure all the lads have got we've all got some good stories about some of the stuff we had to do under Martin. But I sort of, when he first came in, I saw it as a chance for me to someone who might be able to, because I think I needed a bit of a G up to get going again. I needed a bit of a sort of motivation. I thought he might be the one to sort of poke me and get me going in the right way. And once I came back in and played in the team, I felt I did quite well for him, and things were sort of starting to get a bit more going. I was getting more games, and then obviously we eventually had the sort of turnaround, the change. But he was an interesting character. Let's say that.
Yeah, unconventional probably is a good way to describe, isn't it? Hutch, do you have any particular, having been brought in on loan? His cousin Clive's a bit of a Spurs legend, isn't he? Well, definitely a Spurs legend. And is he somebody that you were intrigued to sort of play under? Having heard a little bit about him and heard some stories, I'm sure.
At that time, it was sort of, I think it was the end of a transfer window, and I was at sort of, I knew I wasn't getting a deal at Spurs the next season, so it sort of come out of nowhere. I had the offer from Cheltenham in League One, and I think it was Stevenage in the conference at the time. So it was one or the other, and I didn't speak to him even before. I just sort of had to just make that decision. So obviously I went with the League One option. So then eventually, I got speaking to him once I decided I was going there. And he was good for me. He gave me an opportunity. He he always spoke well to me and always tried to give me confidence. And that was sort of the main reason I did sign that next season, because as much as obviously the club getting relegated that year weren't ideal, he said he wanted me there the next year, and hopefully get some other decent players around you, and and he speaks well, and he sold it to me. And I liked him. Like Lowy said, he was unconventional. He did some mad things, but he wanted to win, and he'd do it any way he could, really. But I don't know what happened that season after, really, because from that team that got relegated, a lot left. There was a lot of loans. There was quite a big change. And I don't know, it just didn't seem to really click that next season.
Yeah, you actually started okay that season. I don't know how well you remember it, but you beat Grimsby on the opening day. You had a great result at Rochdale with big Julian Alsop getting the winner. And you got a draw at Hereford, which wasn't a bad result. And then it seemed to start going wrong in when Barry got a winner at Bury, and then it seemed to start going wrong in late September. A couple of heavy defeats at Aldershot, 4-0 at Accrington, which is remembered for Sam Cox having to play centre half at about 5'3". And then it all went wrong, didn't it, very quickly? Pookie, as a new signing, what do you remember about that period where you started okay, a couple of bad results, and then suddenly John Schofield was in caretaker charge, wasn't he? Or sort of temporary charge for a while.
Yeah, it was a strange start. I mean, he was piecing together a squad, really, wasn't he? And I mean, when you look back, I think, in all honesty, I mean, we didn't have a particularly strong squad. I mean, we didn't have a big squad, that's for sure. And we did have, we didn't have that young guy that could have had like a worldy season and go on and play at a higher level. We had a lot of guys, no disrespect to anyone else, and I'm including myself, but just kind of had a lot of the same kind of guys, And we had quite an old front line with Jules and Barry. So it didn't take much to kind of, once we had a couple of injuries or a little bit of disruption, which there was early on. I don't think I've ever had a season where a manager has left so quickly. I don't think. Maybe one actually at Swindon, but yeah, it's never going to be easy to settle down. And then obviously when John came in, he was only in for a short period as a caretaker. So, I mean, difficult for him to put his stamp on things. He kind of just has to keep things ticking over. And it was a bit like that, but seasons are always the same. You go into them so excited and like you have all these high hopes and targets for the season. And I think to get off to a win starts, your mind starts going thinking, oh, here we go. But you've kind of got to keep it going. And season's so long, as we all know. But it was just a bit of a disrupted start, and kind of found ourselves in a bit of a fight. But I mean, yeah, it wasn't good that probably Martin left so early. And the fact he took me to the club was a bit disappointing for me, because you base your decisions around going somewhere off the back of believing what someone's selling to you and saying to you. So yeah, it was probably a difficult situation for us all to be in, but that's just how it happened, I suppose.
Just going back to Martin Allen for Cannes. I mean, I've known a few players who've played under him, and all sorts of stories of pre-match hotels, using toast to practice set pieces, and all sorts of strange things like that. Those sort of methods, as a group of players, how is that something you walked out afterwards having learned from, or did you walk out afterwards thinking what is going on here, sort of thing? This is a strange way to prepare for a game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say it depends who you are as a person. Like some people, if you've got a very straight-laced player who's, very dedicated to, like the sport itself and everything, that you probably might not understand someone like Martin, because he is, he does have this big personality that is part of what he does. So he's not all about coaching and football. He's a lot about being a big personality, and that can work both ways, I suppose. But I think, like you said, all the stories that come out with him, and the fact the guy's named Mad Dog after all. I mean, for a young guy signing anywhere, when the manager's known as Mad Dog, you're already on the back foot, I suppose, before you start. But for me, the first week was just crazy. I think I just agreed to sign on the Thursday, and on the Friday we did like a shape of some of the team that was supposed to be starting the first game of the season, and they sort of, like, the opposing team kicked off, they passed the ball back to the midfielder, and I've ran through and somehow absolutely snapped him. It was a good tackle, but in training I probably wouldn't have done it normally, but I was a bit jacked up thinking it was, the season was just about to start. So we kind of carried on through the session, and I forgot all about it. Then afterwards, I'm driving back to the flat, and Martin's called me on my mobile and said, "Can you come back to the training ground? I really need to speak to you." So I was panicking, because I thought, well, maybe something's gone wrong with the contract and it's fallen through. So I've gone back up, walked up to his little office that he was in. He was in there smoking with his dog sat next to him, as he always was. And so I was bricking it, and he sat down. He said, after he's blowing out his cigarette, he was like, "That tackle you did out there training today, that's what's going to get us promoted this year." And then he just carried on smoking his cigarette, and he said, I'll see you tomorrow, Pookie." And that was it. And I just walked out, and I was like, well, that was weird, but that's just like the kind of bloke he was. But I always remembered that. And whether it was a clever psychological thing, I have no idea. But that's the kind of madness that he was about. And it was just like time after time, all the stories. You could go on forever talking about his stories, but yeah, pretty much could never guess what he was going to come at you with, that's for sure.
Do you think that approach is a short-term approach? So could you, as a manager, do that over 3 or 4 years? Do you reckon it's more like a 12-month sort of approach? Because, for example, you look at his history, and of course he's managed Barnet 4 or 5 times, and he's often been brought back in to kind of save him from relegation.
Yeah, probably Josh for that, I suppose. He knows more about managers.
Yeah, I definitely felt that when it sort of, I think he's unconventional, and I said lots of different stories we can say, and he kept you on your toes. And to start with, it was quite interesting to see what would happen, what's going to happen today. We did speed dating with all the members of staff, and then we'd come in and we'd be doing weights, and he'd make all the staff like surround us and clap us as we're doing weights. And just, there were things that going on all the time that sort of kept you on your toes. And to start with, they could be quite interesting. You could think, oh, this is something different. We don't, obviously, training can be quite monotonous all the time at a lot of clubs, so it was a lot different. But I think after a while, for me, it sort of wore on you. You got tired going in thinking, oh God, like from being what we're going to do today that'll be interesting to like, oh God, what are we going to be doing today? You know, like in terms of what's he going to throw at us type. So I think definitely you can see why maybe he has a bounce effect, and then sometimes it tails off. But yeah, I think I found it a bit tiring the longer it went on. Definitely. Yeah.
One of the other sort of surprising decisions Martin made was bringing Julian Alsop in, because I think he played against Cheltenham in a friendly at Bishop's Cleeve, and he was probably twice as old as you, Huts, at the time, getting on for 40 at the time, and he'd been playing for Bishop's Cleeve for a couple of years in the Southern League, just enjoying it with his mates really, but obviously always a big handful of a player. But Martin, I think he kicked Dristy Diallo in the head during that game, and Martin Allen signed him. And there was all the famous quotes about him being like a gristly old lump of lard when he wanted to go and buy fillet steak and all that sort of stuff that Martin was very clever at. But what was it like having somebody like that come in, who obviously big character, big bloke as well, especially for Josh and Huts as wingers? What was it like having him come in? Because he might not have been able to run much, but he's certainly dangerous in the air, wasn't
he? Yeah, I mean, Jules, I loved him. Like, he was a lunatic around the place, and he obviously. But initially, when they first signed him, I thought, what is happening? Like, what are we doing here? Just signed some geezer who cannot move. But and I still couldn't believe he started some games, to be fair. But he scored a few goals. He scored more than me anyway. But you know what? He was, again, that's probably what another Martin Allen sort of little trick, where he's seen someone and he knows he's a legend, club legend, and he's probably a cheap option as well, and he's used that to his benefit. And yeah, I mean, he was a lunatic, but he was great to have around, and he definitely livened up certain days at training and match days, that's for sure.
Any particular Alsop memories for Pookie or Josh that you remember about him coming in?
John, just go in the door, 1 sec.
Okay.
I had Jules at 3 different clubs, so I got to the point where I thought I couldn't shake him off. So I had him at Bristol Rovers. He came to Northampton as well when I was there, and then Cheltenham, and yeah, so I knew Jules quite well. So I had him when I was like a 17-year-old breaking through into the team at Bristol Rovers, so I got terrorised by him when I was a young lad, and then had him on the other flip side at Cheltenham when I was obviously one of the more experienced ones, and he came in, but great lad. He was great to have around the place, and he did, he contributed that season. He was involved, and like defensively, set pieces, he was great to have, in the box. His head's like a magnet. Any ball in the box just seems to meet him. So yeah, he was a good lad. Yeah, definitely a good lad.
Yeah, I think Scully came in. He wanted the job, and they gave him a bit of time to have a go at it, and he got a good win at home to Barnet 5-1. I don't know if you remember that one, with Ben Marshall playing well on loan. He went on to have a good career. But Yatesy came in just before Christmas, and his first game, I think, was Boxing Day against Bournemouth. What do you two remember about Yatesy coming in? And because he basically, by that point, it seemed to be like he was coming in to try and keep you up, wasn't it? Because it had all gone wrong on the pitch really by then.
Yeah, I mean, my memory of Yatesy was sort of, I went through a bit of most of the season was a bit of a, up and down for me personally. I was sort of in and out of the team. And then when Scully took over, I don't think he ever really fancied me, Scully, to be fair. And I think I even sat out a couple of the squads, and I was going through a bit of a tough time. And then, yeah, Yatesy got the job, and I remember that's one of the memories I do have is we were training on some AstroTurf somewhere, and it was his first day, and he sort of come over and we was playing little five-a-sides, little matches, and I remember him pulling me after and saying, you know, I know you ain't been playing recently, but you know, I'm going to stick you straight in the team against Bournemouth. So I was like, it was a pick me up I sort of needed. I think, what did we draw 0-0 against Bournemouth that day?
Lost 1-0 that one, but it was a decent performance. But yeah.
Yeah, and again, yeah, he stuck me straight in, and he definitely given me a lift personally. I feel like he gave everyone a lift really that we needed at that time. He was very positive, and he spoke about getting us safe basically, and that was his aim. And well, from what I remember, me personally, I was right on board as soon as he come in. Him and Neil, he was a good guy as well, very good around the place with the lads, and yeah, I remember it being a sort of a pick me up that we needed at the time.
Yeah, Pookie, I can't remember exactly when, but he made you captain, didn't he, Yatesy? Either at the start of the following season or maybe during that season, he gave you the armband. So did he, as a former centre midfielder himself, did he sort of pay particular attention, do you think, to your performances?
Yeah, I don't know. It was quite similar to Hutton, to be fair. When he first came in, he pulled me to one side and said I think I'd been there. I think Scully had left me out a couple of games as well, and he came straight in and said that he wanted me back in the team. So probably same as Hutton. It was a bit of a lift, and you think to yourself, oh, that's a great start. You know, the new manager's come in and is already saying he wants you back in the team. So yeah, I liked Yates. It was a good sort of like pairing really. Him being the manager, and then like that said, Neil was a perfect assistant. Really had a load of banter, got on great with the lads, and was that sort of in between go-to that I think you always need, and then just leave the manager there as a bit of a decision maker and guy to dish out the rollickings when they're needed. But yeah, it kind of worked well for me. I can't remember the middle bit of that season, to be honest. In and around Christmas, bit of a dark area where I think we were just kind of ticking along a little bit. But I remember I finished that season really well under Yatesy, and I kind of feel like he looked at me like a player that his type of player, if that makes sense. I think he thought that about me. Obviously, made it clear that he wanted me to stay next season, and spoke about the captaincy. Whether that was a good thing, looking back, who knows? But probably didn't turn out the way I would have probably wanted it to be honest. But yeah, that's it. At the end of that season, I think I picked up Players Player of the Year, which was, you know, one of the things I hold like as one of my highest achievements, I think, looking back. So it was a good finish to the year. And yeah, I think it with Yatesy coming in probably gave us just enough of a kick to keep ourselves in the league that year.
And Josh, very, very different character to Martin Allen, obviously. There's nobody quite like Martin Allen, but Yatesy was very much nice bloke, but not what you probably wouldn't call him as unconventional, would you? He's more of a sort of reliable, solid sort of manager. How did you find him in those early months? Because you had some decent form during the latter part of that season, didn't you?
Yeah, I think slightly different from the other two. I think because the two guys, because Scully, I played under Scully when he was obviously caretaker, and I got on particularly well with Scully. So I didn't really. I would happy for him to have continued in the job, and you know. So at that point, I was sort of thinking, oh, who's going to come in, and then Yatesy's come in, and more of a, just like you say, a steady pair of hands. I think him and Neil, just everything sort of settled down. The sort of craziness and all the unsettledness with the boardroom and everything that was going on all settled down, and I think that translated to the team. And I think, like I said, Yatesy was very good with speaking to the players. He was brilliant with me, you know, managing the sort of older players, and like I say, he obviously pulled Hutton early on, told them they were part of his plans, and which was, you know, it was a good decision. We needed to get our good players back in the team and playing, and I think he did that, and really, you know, made a big difference to us that season. Sort of brought us all together and helped us to avoid going down that year.
So we'll I suppose you better inch our way towards the Burton game now, because you actually lost 3 in a row to Northampton, Hereford at home, who always seem to beat Cheltenham. Cheltenham couldn't beat them. and also lost at home to Chesterfield. So went to Burton on the 13th of March, still in big trouble, really. The first half sort of suggested it was going to be more trouble because, we won't dwell too much on the first half because it was 2-0 to Burton, and Josh, you came off injured. Do you remember anything about that game? Because obviously by the time all the fireworks happened, we'll go on to talk about, I think you probably would have been in the treatment room maybe.
I did, yeah. I remember coming off. Do you know what the score was when I came off?
1-0, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I do remember coming off, and I remember being in and out of the treatment room. And I think at half time I got showered, and then I was sort of in and out. I was having ice, and so I was missing bits of it. But yeah, I do remember coming out and seeing the finale, and just, yeah, it was mixed emotions for me because I'm injured and obviously thinking how long we're going to be out for, and all this type of stuff. So it's sort of self-interest, thinking about myself. But then obviously, yeah, it was a hell of a game.
So you'd gone off and you picked up an injury. I think 16th minute. Sean Harrod had put Burton 1-0 up. He scored again, I think, with a penalty. So it's 2-0. Hutt saw Pookie. Do you remember anything about the half time? Because I think Yatesy said after the game that he was quite harsh, quite critical and quite shouted and ranted a little bit at half time. Does that ring any bells for you two, or do you only remember what happened in the second half?
I literally cannot remember. I mean, the game was a whirlwind in itself. Like, it was just mental. So I literally don't even know what was said at half time, but I can't imagine exactly.
No, I remember coming in and thinking how badly we were playing, and myself how badly I was playing. And I remember Towner, the centre half, slamming the metal, like the metal bins that you have the kit in. He started picking them up and tossing them around. The classic centre half showing his strength when he'd just been beasted all game by their centre forward. But yeah, I remember him kicking off, and then we kind of sat down ready to receive it off the gaffer, I think. But I think we all knew how bad it was going. And to be perfectly honest, there seemed absolutely no way back. I think we were fairly thin on the ground, losing Josh straight away. He was starting at left back as it was, and he'd already gone off. So you could tell how sort of threadbare we must have been at the time. And I just think we were sat there probably thinking, right, we're going to get some pouters here, but let's be honest, we're probably not going to come back from this either, because it just didn't feel like that kind of, that was ever going to happen, to be honest.
Yeah. What always amazes me about that day is you were poor in the first half, 2-0 down. You got the rollicking at half time, and then you got it back to 2-2. And I think Pookie and Hutch, you got an assist each, one for Mediolito and one for Justin Richards. So you got yourself back in the game. But then to go 4-2 down again, that must have been, having sort of had that half-time reset, got yourself back in the game, to then find yourself 4-2 down, and I think Michael Townsend scored an own goal as well. It was all going wrong again, and then Steve Cabba got his first 72nd minute, it was 4-2. How hard then is it to sort of get yourself going again, having had that sort of effort to get yourself back to 2-2? Do you remember the emotions that you went through during that half?
Yeah. I mean, any game where you've got yourself back in with a chance to sort of get a result, especially like you said, I didn't realise we was on the back of 3 losses on the bounce anyway. So I mean, confidence must have been at an all-time low anyway. So then to get back into the game and then, like you said, go another 2 goals down, you just think it's not going to be, like, it's not happening for us. So yeah, I can't remember my exact motion after that goal, but I can't imagine it was. I had much hope for the rest of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, Jules came on in the 64th minute. When you look at the bench, Barry Hales was on the bench. A couple of years earlier, probably 3 or 4 years earlier, been in the Premier League, whereas Jules had been playing for Bishop Cleeve. But Jules got put on ahead of Hales. Marley Watkins, who's obviously gone on to do very well for himself, was also on the bench. Danny Andrew, gone on to do very well for himself, was on the bench. But it was Jules that came on. He did actually play a big part in. Obviously, he didn't score, but I think he roughed them up a little bit. And yeah. Pookie, you got your first in the 84th minute to make it 4-3, but then they scored again. So 5-3 down in the 85th minute. Do you remember that first goal? And did it really feel like a consolation at that point?
Yeah, I think so. I do remember it. That was a free kick, right?
Yeah.
On the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think I was on him, but I think when you
Yeah,
got a game
I
like
wanted
that,
I wanted to fight you, Pookie, for that.
yeah, Hutz was moaning to take it. I was like, mate, you've never scored a free kick, not even in training, so let me just have one. And yeah, it was just a weird, a weird goal, to be honest. I was kind of thinking what I was going to do. The keeper lined the wall up and then stood right behind it. So he was kind of giving me the side that he wasn't protecting. So I thought, right, I better change things here. And I tried to hit it as hard as I could in that space, really, which worked out okay. And but still, I don't know if we truly believed anything was going to change after that, to be honest. But yeah, it was kind of just the start of the comeback, really, I guess.
Yeah, and surely, Josh, by this point, you attempted out of the treatment room to have a look at what was going on with the noise levels.
Yeah, no. So I do remember as you're talking about it. I should have watched it before this. I'm getting some more memory. I remember Pookie. I do remember Pookie scoring a free kick. But I think the lads have summed it up well in that we didn't play well in the first half, and we came back into it and then fell behind again. I don't remember the overwhelming feeling being, like, oh, we're going to win this now. It was more like, well, we've got a goal and, we'll keep going. I mean, it was late on anyway. What did you say it was? Pookie's goal then was the
Pookie 84, and then Cabba got his second 85.
So yeah, so there's not long to go. So and when you have it in games, sometimes if you're playing really well and you score, you'll have that feeling that you're going to get back into it and that things are going to, you're going to keep going. But given the time, I think we were looking at hopefully maybe putting it back to a draw if we could and going from there. But yeah, obviously we did a bit better than that.
Yeah, so 5-3 down with 5 to go. Pookie, you got your second in the 87th minute to restore a bit of hope.
Was that the own goal? Was it?
Arguably.
Deflection.
Yeah, it's deflected, yeah.
Yeah, I was getting the corner flag when it, Pookie.
Yeah, the second one's not the one you look back on and you're not showing your mates the second one too many times. But if you're not there to hit it, Hutz, and then you can't score, can you?
I laid that one off as well, didn't I, John? I put it on a plate for him.
Yeah, you got if you're giving the goal to Pookie, you got the assist. Otherwise, he got the assist if you're giving it to no goal.
Yeah, good point.
But it's definitely gone down as Pookie's goal. So 5-4. Justin Richards makes it 5-5 in the 90th minute, and there's incredible scenes of celebration with the away fans behind that goal. Pookie, did you just feel like everything you hit was going in, whether it was on target or not at that point?
Not really. I mean, not really used to scoring goals as it was. I kind of felt quite happy that I had the 2, to be honest. I was thinking, well, that's an unusual day out for me. So, yeah, I was kind of not thinking anything along those lines. But that 5th goal, which Justin scored, I mean, that was actually probably the best goal, really. It was a great goal where Mehdi flew down the wing and crossed it in. And those goals are great, especially at big moments, because you're all flying forward and then there's an end product and it's like you're all charging forward to celebrate within the move itself. It's great. And everyone and the fact that we're in front of our own fans, which, to be fair, there was a lot there on the day, really, considering. But that I think was a great sort of goal, and that's the kind of goal when you score it, you think, hang on a minute, now we've got a chance. The goals earlier on in the game, like Josh said, we scored those and we thought, oh, please let us draw, kind of thing. It wasn't the same attitude, but once you score a goal and you celebrate like that and kind of you've got that buzz, the only thoughts you can possibly have are to go on and win it. So not that I was thinking I would have anything to do with it as such, but I think the actual fact that we did it in that style, we probably all then thought, hang on a minute, we have a chance here. And there wasn't long to go, but it probably was the only time during the game that there might have been that thought, to be honest.
Yeah, so you weren't really in the team to necessarily for your goals, but you got 6 for Cheltenham, and 3 of them were in 6 minutes. So talk us through because I'm sure you have watched this one back a few times. The last one in stoppage time, 5-5. I think that was the one where the corner was cleared to you, wasn't it? The last one.
Yeah,
is that right?
I mean,
yes.
I mean, yeah, it was the last. It was it was sort of like last couple of minutes to go, and we won that corner. There he is, and yeah, Jules being on the pitch, you're thinking, right, this is it, Jules. He's the guy that's gonna get it, if anyone. So, I mean, they're probably double marking him in the box. He's probably had something to do with it coming out to me, if I remember rightly. It was a decent ball in. I think Hutz might have even taken it, which is, Hutz has hit his 1 in 10 decent cross, which is a miracle in itself. But he's whipped it in, and yeah, probably Jules has caused a bit of commotion in the box, and then it's just come out. And I mean, I probably missed 90 out of 100 of those, in training, and for some reason I've hit one on target, and it kind of went straight at the keeper, to be fair. But because there was so many people in the box, I think, and I hit it quite well, by the time he's seen it, it was already gone past him. So yeah, I didn't really know what to do myself either. I think like that picture behind you, I'm just trying to contain myself slightly. And I always remember that the one thing I remember is Neil's face. It was just the happiest face I've ever seen. I just felt like I just ran over to Neil, and I think we all had a bit of a cuddle over near the dugout. And but yeah, it's the one thing that I remember is not so much the ball going in, because I can't really remember that at all. It's just Neil's big smiley face on the sideline, like happiest guy in the world. So yeah, it was good. But then we still had a little bit of time to go. So when you're in that kind of position of the season, there's nothing worse than celebrating like that and then letting it slide. So thankfully we held on for like what was probably about 2 minutes, but probably felt longer, I suppose.
Yeah, even if you'd been mid-table, it would have been an incredible game. But that result, really, if you look at the results after that, you drew, lost, win, draw. So 1 defeat in 8 after that game, having gone into it with 3 in a row defeats. It did really end up keeping you up, I think, that result. All those few minutes at the end.
Yeah, it was massive.
Did it feel like that at the end? Did it feel like that at the end, that a massive turning point?
I don't know. Probably within the week it did. At the end, it was just like everyone thinking, "What the hell has just happened?" I suppose. Like it was just a whirlwind, like we all spoke about, and the fact that we played so badly, really, in a game, and we turned it on for probably about 5 of the 90 minutes and managed to score that many goals. So, but when you look back, and it was quite tight towards the end of the season, so. Needed to get wins from somewhere, and that was a pretty good one to start from. And we did get a few results after that, and yeah, it was probably something that's good, because I know, although I had a really poor game that day, to be honest, but the fact that I scored 3 goals, my confidence was so high. It's such a great day for me personally. So I felt like my confidence was up there for the next games that we had coming along. So. It does go to show that it is like that, football, confidence and getting on a bit of a roll and things like that. So yeah, it was definitely a small part of us turning it around and staying up that year, I think.
Yeah, Josh, you obviously weren't out for too long, because I think you had a stormer against Bury at home. Do you remember that one at 5-2? I think you got a couple of goals in that one. You loved scoring against Bury, didn't you?
Yeah,
this one was a home one. This one.
Yeah, I scored 2.
Yeah, I think you got. I think you got 2 lots of 2 at their place.
Yeah, I got 2. Yeah, I remember scoring 2 at Bury. Yeah. But
I think you got 2 in this. If I'm right, I think it was a 5-2 home win. In those remaining games, again, that sort of helped get you over the line.
Okay.
But I was going to ask you, Josh, about Russ Penn, because obviously he came to sign for Cheltenham, and Sean Harrod did as well the year after you left, I think. But did Russ ever mention that game? Because I think he got their man of the match in that 6-5.
Yeah, I don't remember him. No, I don't remember him mentioning that one. Yeah, no, I don't recall. I don't recall him.
Yeah, probably wanted to forget it, but
yeah, probably.
Yeah, the 5-2 was in April the 10th. You just won at Crewe 2-1, and then beat Bury at home, and started to pull away. But it wasn't till the last game where you actually officially mathematically were safe. Because do you remember going to Notts County on the penultimate game, and they were getting the trophy? They secured the trophy that day. Kasper Schmeichel in goal. I think Lee Hughes had banged a couple in. That was a tricky day when it was still, you weren't absolutely sure whether you were going to stay up or not. Does that one sort of stick in the memory a little bit?
I remember that one. Yeah, definitely. I think what you said about the Burton game was right, in terms of I mean, I played in a few teams where I was involved in promotion runs, and you can have that game where you win and your momentum then kicks on, and it really did from there. I do remember going to Notts County being a really hot day, and obviously being a big crowd there because they'd obviously gone up. What did we lose?
It was 5-0 in the end.
5-0, was it, right? Okay.
But it was 4-0 at half time, so it could have been a lot worse.
That's right. I remember it being a tough afternoon. They were a good side. Who was the manager there at Notts County? Was it
Cottrell?
Yeah, Cottrell. That's right. Yeah, because I think there was a thing where I think he said he took some of his. Like, there was a guy who might have scored a hat-trick that day, and he took him off because I think we needed to keep the score down to make sure that.
He took Lee Hughes off at half time, he took Lee Hughes in the 39th minute because it looked like he was going to score a few more, I think.
So maybe he did us a bit of a favour. But yeah, they were a good side. They were a good side that year, and I remember it was a good atmosphere and big crowd for them. So yeah, we limped through that one a little bit.
Just on the Bury 5-2, their keeper got sent off in the first half. Justin Richards scored the penalty after that incident. Matt Thornhill scored. Josh, you got 2 in the second half. And Barry Hale scored. Ryan Lowe got both of their goals quite late on. So I think obviously the goalkeeper being sent off didn't help them, but that was a pretty comprehensive performance to be 3-0 up. They got 2 back and then ended up winning it 5-2. I think that was another significant one. But I think the Burton one will always be the one that's remembered because of the run you were on going into that. And obviously at half time, I think people were. I know some Cheltenham fans left at half time thinking we're going down here. Probably wish they hadn't.
Yeah.
So
what was the game? Was the last game of the season? Was that Aldershot?
It was Accrington at home. So you scored in that one as well.
That wasn't my mention.
Josh, do you remember any of your goals, mate?
Yeah. Honestly, my memory is hazy at best. Yeah, so many.
I think.
Yeah. John, can we just? I know you came out of a few goal stats for me this year, but I did actually score 12 goals this season before the season was cancelled. So those have now been stripped from the record books. Can we just get that on the video that I've nearly trebled my career tally of goals in one season, but again lost to the record books now.
We're definitely going to just have a little chat about what you're all up to now before we finish. But I just want to ask you about so Josh, you scored one all draw on the final day. I think you were nearly there, but I think you just needed a point to make absolutely sure on the last day. And then obviously a lot of changes happened that summer. And Dave, your time at Cheltenham came to an end, didn't it? That summer. How did it feel to sort of get the job done, but the main thing was staying up, wasn't it? But was there also a feeling of we should have probably done a lot better than that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was 19, 20 at the time. First real season in men's football, in proper football. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was hard because I've moved out for the first time, gone to a strange place I've never been before, and it was a lot of things that it was a roller coaster of a year really, and obviously signing for Cheltenham and then the manager that signs you leaves and 2 other managers come in that season. So I mean obviously it was a relief, staying up at the end of that year, and that was that become the goal as the season went on, and obviously we achieved that, which was great because no one ever wants a relegation on the CV. Do you know what I mean? So, but and then obviously the season ended, and it was disappointing, really. I mean, like I said, I'd had a roller coaster of a year, and I don't know. As much as I didn't play, being a young player, being 20 years old, and my first proper year, I kind of and Yatesy did like me. I don't think Scully did, like I said, but I don't know if he played a part. But I don't know. I've gutted really. I enjoyed my year, the experience, and the obviously the staying up bit. It was a great feeling. When obviously I got told that I weren't going to be there the next year, and they were going a different way in terms of signings they were making. It was gutting, but it's football, and it's just one of them things you just have to get on with it and learn from. So yeah, I was gutted in the end, but what can you do?
I think there weren't many players sort of tied down for the following year. And it was again, it was quite a big rebuilding, wasn't it? A lot of players came in the following summer, but Pookie, you got given the armbands. Josh, you were still there. You still contracted, I think, again for another year, weren't you? But it was a very good start of that season because I don't think there was much money at the club, and Yatesy had to sort of get a few players in on the cheap, I think, and almost cobble a squad. He brought in Wes Thomas, didn't he, for very little money, and never really been tried and tested before, and he did well, but started really well and then fell away. And then, as Josh, you played a part in the following year where it was really good. So could you just touch on that 10-11 season where you started well, Wes Thomas banging the goals in, and then you slipped away, didn't you? Do you remember much about that one?
I remember, I think I remember we had some really, really good performances in that season. I remember, I think that was that one we played Crewe at home. We beat them 3-1, and I think they scored the first goal. And from recollection, that was some of the best football I'd been involved in all my time. In all the clubs I've been at, we had some real flashes in that season where we came together. We had some good players, and you said Wes, the lads who came in did particularly well. But we had a small squad again, and lads who hadn't maybe played as many games as league games and stuff as some others. So I think with a lot of young players and lads who are untested, we tended to be a bit like that, and that showed, I think, through that season. But I definitely remember there being some real highs, some real high points.
I think Yatesy liked a diamond, didn't he, Pookie, that season, which probably would have suited you, Huts, as well, but maybe not so much you, Josh, although I think you did play a lot on the side of a diamond. But Pookie, you would have been the one at the bottom, I think, weren't you, for a lot of that season in the diamond midfield with people like Frankie Artis, JJ, Josh, and Junior Schmeichel came in?
Yeah, I think the diamond worked quite well for us. But yeah, I personally prefer playing at the bottom of it, and still do now. But I do remember I played a few games to the left of the diamond, which is always a tough position, I think, for someone who likes to be like a central midfielder, because you find yourself having to go out and pick up the fullback when he comes forward, and you got some decision making to do there. But I think Josh summed it up well, where you compare that start of the season with Martin Allen's squad, and then you look at the start of that season with what Yatesy put together, and you did have that potential there where you had 3 or 4 players that could become can really improve, or can just have that season of fireworks. Like Wes was one of them who had that potential. I think it wasn't long before he signed Marlon. Marlon Pat came straight away.
Yeah, he came that season. Yeah.
You got players like that who've got the quality. I mean, you won't be surprised if he plays in the Premier League one day and he's playing in the Champ. It's like you just have that. You only need a few guys like that in the team, and you've kind of got some real potential. Whereas the season before, you look around, probably didn't have any guys on that kind of same level. And I think people like Danny Andrews, like you said before, were just sort of coming into that sort of like first team football fray. So they were then starting to kick on a bit. And yeah, those kind of players, sort of when they do kick on, it's great to have them in the team. But it gives you a chance of putting something together. And for a manager, it's probably a nice thing to have, where kind of what you're doing. Like, he was quite confident with the diamond, wasn't he? So he stuck with that. And then the guys that he had playing were kind of cementing their positions, and you just get a bit more regularity then, don't you? So I think it was a pretty good start. Not the season I ever look back on with many fond memories, because it was probably the start of the demise, really, if you put it like that. But the fact that he signed Steve Elliott, I think, was the biggest thing. Great signing for the club, but a week before he'd announced that I was the club captain, and I think a week later that he probably would have given it to Steve, because who better to have as a club captain? Steve Elliott is like the perfect captain. So I think he was desperate for me to stay, because I was talking to Luton at the same time, and I think I was close to signing for Luton. So I think he used the captaincy as a bit of a, just an additional thing to try and convince me to stay, which it did, to be honest. But whether it was the right timing for me personally, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think once Steve Elliott came, in Mark Yates's mind, I think Steve Elliott was the captain, although he didn't wear the armband, to be honest. So yeah, it was a bit strange, really, in that situation. But yeah, it was a good squad that he was starting to put together, and it kind of showed that in the season to come after, right? So it was the start of the building for him, I guess.
Josh, you really did go through the full sort of range at Cheltenham, didn't you? Because you had a relegation and put on the transfer list. Then you played in the team that stayed up. Then you played in some teams that were reached the playoffs and got to the third round of the FA Cup against Tottenham. So you went out on a high, really. But you knew quite early on what you were going to do after football, didn't you? And I think you had already made those preparations. And it seemed to be like you were just extending it maybe 1 or 2 more years before you go fully into the law career. So just talk us through those last couple of years in full-time football before you did what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I think we had the year when we were building, so we just mentioned, where Marlon came in and Wes, and you could see that we had potential for the next year. I'd signed, I think, another 2 years under Yatesy, so I had that season and the next one, and then in the following season, we really started to click, and I think I played 40 games in that season that we got up into the playoff final. So came to the end of that season. I didn't finish the season well. I got injured. I think last game of the season we beat someone at home, Bradford it might have been. I don't know if you recall, but we beat someone at home.
Just for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I played in that. It was 3-0, and then I did my ligaments in my knee, so I obviously missed the playoffs. And I think we had signed young right winger. I can't remember his name. Yes, that's right. So I could see the sort of writing was potentially on the wall that he was going to play more games and stuff. But I was hoping at the end of that season that I'd maybe get another year. But Yatesy pulled me in and told me that they weren't looking to keep me going. I'd actually finished all my training. I'd done all my law. Everything had been done and passed and everything. So I was ready to move into law. But I was hoping for maybe 1 more year playing football until I did, but Yatesy pulled me in, and I just thought at that point it felt like a good time to go. I had a few offers from a few clubs sort of around the country, but I travelled around a lot, and I didn't want to be living away from home. My family was settled. I didn't want to move, so at that point I decided, I'll go and play part-time football and start my career in the law. Which looking back now, I would have loved another year. I would have loved at least 1 more year. But it didn't quite work out. So I played for Bath, which was great. Had 2 years there, and then did my training contract. And now I've been a qualified solicitor for the last 6 years. So a bit different.
Yeah. And Huts, cheers for that, Josh. Huts, you joked about your career going in slightly different directions to Yuri Bacice, but you have had some success in non-league football since leaving Cheltenham, haven't you? You've had some promotions. So can you just give us a little summary of what you've done and what you're doing also outside of football now?
So eventually when I left, I ended up going initially. I went out to Glenodal's academy out in Spain. I'd done that for 6 months, which was interesting. And then come back and sort of when the non-league journey started, starting with Burton Wood. I think I've probably done every team around London and Hertfordshire, but it's been good. I've enjoyed it. I'm still getting me fix of football, and I've had some success. We won the league with Hemel to get into the Conference South, which was great memories, and also I won the league below that, I think, with Kings Langley at one point. And it's been good. Yeah, I've enjoyed it, although obviously never the same as training every day, and that was always the dream. But yeah, I mean, I still love my football, so that was that. And then obviously I had to get a real job, so that's when I become a fire alarm engineer. No real reason, just something I sort of fell into, and yeah, that's my job now. It pays the bills, and that's what I was doing alongside playing part time.
And who were you with before this season got ended prematurely? Who were you playing for this season? 'Cause like you said, you've had a few clubs.
I haven't played for 2 years. I've done my ACL a couple of Aprils ago. I had surgery, and obviously being at that level and going through the NHS and stuff like that, it's a long old process. I'd been injured for a while before I even got surgery. And once surgery come around, and again working and trying to rehab at the same time, and it was a long old process. Like you see some of even the pros now at clubs, out for over a year and still sort of breaking down with injuries. So I was always planning to try and get back, but I knew it was going to be a slow process. And unfortunately, I during the time I was sort of trying to get back, I took my knee collapsed again, basically during a training session. So my ACL was hanging off again. So that's when I decided to sort of, without officially saying it, I kind of knocked it on the head, and I'm actually I took an opportunity over at sort of a Step 6 team local to me, Walthamstow, and I'm assistant manager to a mate over there, and I've just sort of took that opportunity to stay in it and get some coaching behind me and sort of maybe look at that as something I can sort of maybe move into and just get that experience of doing the other side of things.
So you're in Leighton Orient territory, are you, sort of around there?
Yeah, not far. Yeah, so it's been good. Again, obviously we kind of took over early, sort of late of the season just finished. So we probably got about 6 weeks into it, and then obviously the world went mad. So it was cut short, but hopefully when the season can get going again, I'm quite looking forward to it.
And Pookie, same for you. You're still playing, and it's been cut short, but because you were up there with the chance of promotion at Cirencester, weren't you? I think. Am I right in thinking Bruffy's given you the armband there as well?
Yeah, he did. To be fair, whether that was anything to do with our Cheltenham days, but I remember when Yatesy was trying to get, because I signed a 2-year contract, and at the start of the second season, Yatesy told me that he'd actually signed that Russell Penn that you spoke about earlier, and I think that was like a direct replacement for me. So he wanted me to go. So part of the easing me out process was I was training with the youth team for about a month, and Bruffy was the manager then. So I kind of knew Bruffy pretty well. But yeah, he's manager of Cheltenham Town, who I play for. Probably shouts at me more now than he did at those young lads. To be fair, in the academy at Cheltenham. But we know each other quite well. He's made me play a coach this season, which I do absolutely no coaching, but that's quite a nice title to have. So I'm easing across to that side of things maybe for the future. But we were unlucky last year. It kind of felt like we were just getting into the groove. Started to string a few results together with Bruffy coming in. He turned it around really. So we had the playoffs in sight, and then it was all knocked on the head. So that was a bit of a shame, to be honest.
But having got that title, I know you're not doing any coaching at the moment. But is that something you want to go into, and management maybe have a go at that, like Huts is doing, and you've started sort of on the path to that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like you mentioned, guys like John Schofield and that. Like I kind of stick myself in that same bracket. I have very little sensible input during training. I'm a bit of a joker, like to have a laugh and a joke when I'm there to enjoy myself. So when you're that kind of guy, sometimes not quite as easy to turn into the coaching and management side of things, but maybe I can calm down and just be a bit more sensible around trainings, and that might happen. But for the time being, it's a good position to be in. Bruffy's pretty, I wouldn't say he's calm, definitely not calm, but he is pretty serious when it comes to his football. He knows what he's about. So maybe it's good to have that link, like there's John Schofield link to the players, where they could probably chat to you if they want to, and you can have a laugh and a joke with them, and be that sort of middle ground in between the manager and the players, which some people quite like. So yeah, it's been great. Bruffy's been great to me, to be honest. And I mean, I work 2 minutes down the road in Cirencester, so like Hutch was saying, you kind of got to find something to do that pays the bills. And I work for a company in Cirencester, so to drive like 2-3 minutes to training 2 times a week is as good as it gets in non-league football. So it's been great for me in that sense. But yeah, it's hopefully going to start again this year, but who knows?
Yeah. And Josh, I just want to ask you a bit about your lad, who's doing very well, from what I hear, and we've had a couple of chats about him, Joe, at Bristol City. Different position to you, but how's he getting on?
Yeah, he's doing well. Obviously, he's a bit like a caged animal at the minute, so he's frustrated with everything that's going on. His apprenticeship would be would be finishing now. Really, he's just chomping at the bit, wanting to get back and get playing. Yeah, and obviously he's the polar opposite of me. So he's a big centre half who wins headers and tackles, and yeah, if you saw him, guys, you wouldn't think he was my son. You would think he was my son. But yeah, he's doing well, and just wants to get back. I think same as everyone. Yeah,
brilliant club to be at in terms of bringing young lads through as well. They had a lot of success and getting a lot of players out on loan, and then gone on to be in the first team. But didn't affect you. Your Bristol Rovers connections didn't come into your thinking there. Was it just what's best for Joe?
Yeah, so Joe signed for City when he was 7. So he's been there since he's been in the academy since he was 7. So, in fairness to City, their academy is really, really good, and it has been for quite a few years. It's got better and better over the last few years since sort of Lansdowne has invested, and the coaches down there. And it's funny because quite a few of the coaches I played with, Trevor Challis, I played with at Bristol Rovers, and some of the other guys as well. So I know them, and so that was nice, seeing him being coached by people that I know. And he loves it down there. And yeah, Bristol City came in, and he's been there since he was 7, so it was never really a consideration. And he's a massive City fan.
Brilliant. All right, guys. Well, it's been really good to have a chat. I mean, we as you said, it wasn't a hugely successful season, but you achieved your objective of staying up in 09-10, and then certainly the Burton game will never be forgotten by anyone who was there. I think it made a stir, around the world, really, if not around the country in football, that comeback. So thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat about that season. Eventful time for the club, but look back fondly. Certainly that Pookie's hat-trick will never be forgotten. And it's good to see you all doing so well now. So thanks for joining us for the chat.
Cheers, John.
Yep. Cheers, John. Thanks, mate.
Hey, John.